Welcome back, family. Welcome back. Happy Monday to you, one. Happy Monday to you all. Thank you so much for joining us again on Parent Power Hour. It is Monday, it is 5 o'clock, and we are blessed to be in your presence. As always, esteemed guest today, we have a topic du jour for you today. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. Project-based learning. You've heard it. It's another hot phrase. We like the show of hot phrases. I feel like whatever is hot in education and people are constantly hearing, we like to take those things, break them down, and get experts. And that's what we're going to have today. But before we start, we would like to know. Here's the question, the connection question. If you at home, and we're going to talk to our panel in a moment, had a personal assistant, what would they do? If you had a personal assistant, family, at your disposal, what would they do? What would you have them do for you? We're going to start with someone who is experienced in that field, Ms. Ross Jones. Introduce yourself, please, and then tell us, please, if you had a personal assistant, because we know that you do. What would you have them do?
We're just starting this interview, sir. If I had a personal assistant, as you said, if I have one, because I have had experience with this, but if I had one in my house, I would have them just walk around and just be like, you're doing a good job. Keep going. You're amazing. We got this. Don't forget the spaghetti. Everything's all good. That would be their full-time job. Just follow me around and make sure my head is straight.
Excellent. And we're going to pass the mic to Miss Reid. How about you, ma'am? If you had a personal assistant of your own, what would you have them do?
Well, I would have them to partner with me on housework, because having a house is a lot of work and it requires a lot of work. So it would be great to have somebody to partner with me on that.
Absolutely. And as always, family, we're going to let Brother Tyrone open the door a little bit more. So I'm going to step up next and say, I was trying to think about it. Probably everything. I'm a note person and a list person. So everything I put down on my list in various aspects of my life and duties, I would have them do that. That's what I would do. So I would just write it down, give it to them, be done with it. Brother Tyrone, you are on mute.
All right, now you can hear me. I'm unmuted now. Sure, I've been thinking about that. I mean, that would be absolutely great. So, as most of you know that watch, I'm a single dad. So it's me, the two girls, and then the two dogs also. So, though that would be so good. A personal assistant in home with me would definitely help out with managing the girls and the dogs, and probably just do stuff like my truck actually needs to go on the shop right now because my lift gate is messed up. So do stuff like that. I'm particular about who clean and who touch stuff, because I just like things a certain way. So I would probably find myself cleaning up after them anyway. So I would just I could just leave, they didn't have to do that. But yeah, to make sure that the girls were good, and you know what I'm saying? And you know what I mean? Yeah, handle the dogs and just do that little stuff like that would be but it would be a big help to me. But we wouldn't be creating work over again. I'm just so particular about things, even when I heard someone say well, I think you said it, William, just notes, and that stuff, stuff just gotta be my way, or it just drives me crazy if somebody else come in and is doing something else. So yeah.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that. Yeah, I absolutely know what you mean about that. Well, family, we do have two wonderful teachers who, are blessing us. We're really blessed when we have teachers, Tyrone. I think you agree. It's one thing to have administrators and administration and leaders from without the school, but the people that really, really impact our young people, our children the most are our teachers, our educators that are before them every day. And even I would say may be more vital now in this age of virtual online learning, when you have caring teachers that really can affect learning, which is really dicey right now in this moment. Speaking of types of learning, we're going to talk about project-based learning. Sounds like an obvious thing, but it's not. It's not. It's probably more complex than I think some folks would realize. But it is important, vitally important. Ms. Reid, I'll ask you to introduce yourself to our family, and then tell us what is project-based learning.
Hello, everyone. My name is Miss Reid. I'm a teacher at Creative City Public Charter School. And what is project-based learning? Project-based learning is learning that is guided by the students, student inquiry, student choice. When children are excited about what they're learning, or if they're causing the activities to happen, or they're having the questions and doing all the work, then it's very meaningful to them. They should be able to ask questions and experiment with things and just evaluate the process and go back and start over again. I had a project in the spring before COVID that my students were working on. We were talking about recycling in class. And so out of that topic came so many questions they had about cleaning up the playground, because the playground was a mess, and how to get people to help them keep it clean. Sad to say, COVID happened. I mean, they started the process, but we couldn't finish it in school, so we pushed it out to our distance learning in the spring. So instead of trying to get people to clean up the playground, they said, okay, well, we're not at school, we need to figure this out. So there was another question. They said, well, what can we do? How can we do something, where we are in our separate places? So they came up with the idea of talking to people on their street and talking to their family about helping to keep their area around their homes and their streets clean. So they decided to make posters and talk to their families and talk to their neighbors from a distance, of course, and to work it that way. And it was all them. And that's what true project-based learning is. Because when we as teachers, when we give them projects and it's, they're following our rubric, it's not really their work. It's based on our standards. But if they're doing it, they're asking the questions, they're reevaluating. They're like, okay, well, we're not done. They'll go back and do some more on it. It's all them. And that's what my students ended up doing. While they were back in school, they started picking up the trash on the playground, and then they came up with something else. Things like, well, what can we do with this stuff? Because we were talking about reusing and recycling and things like that. So it actually 2 projects came up. And the first one they couldn't finish, but the second one they actually were able to finish, because as they collected the trash, they were like, okay, what can we do with this? And as they began to pick up different items, they ended up making a birdhouse out of the objects, because they looked around, they saw the birds, and they were like, well, maybe, can we make a birdhouse out of this? What can we do? So they put all the stuff on the tables. We had tables, so they pushed all the tables together, and they got to work, and they started building and putting things together. And then here comes more questions. What can we use to put this together, to hold it together? So they tried tape and glue and this kind of glue and that kind of glue. So, I mean, they worked it all out. They evaluated the process. They went back, they fixed it some more until they were happy with the product. And that gave them the public product. So they were able to get a public product from the second project, but not the first one. Well, partially the first one, because they pushed it out into their neighborhoods and they shared how they finished that.
Thank you, Ms. Reid. And I think the interesting thing that you said there is it started sounding like just a simple recycling project. But what people don't realize is that project ends up being a multidisciplinary lesson. You're talking math, you're talking science, right? You're talking obviously the social justice, even the social justice piece, when you're talking about environmental justice in places like Baltimore City or many of our urban areas throughout the country. So that's one of those things where someone might say, oh, well, they're just picking up trash. No, there can be a lot of rigor involved in said project. So thank you, Ms. Reid. Ms. Ross Jones, how did project-based learning begin for you in the classroom? What made you get to that? And maybe give us an example of some things there.
So I started project-based learning before I knew what project-based learning was. I taught at Lamel when it was open. Y'all remember good old Lamel? And it was a tough environment. really challenging students. I just moved to Baltimore. I actually live like a couple blocks from the school. I would walk to school every day. I was there to save the world, and it was tough. So I really was just problem solving around how I was going to get my students engaged and how was I going to get them interested in mathematics, particularly. And so I went to my principal and I was like, look, I want to take the kids outside. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I want to take them outside. I got this idea. And so my very first project was middle school students. We were working on probability and statistics. Ironically, that's what I teach as a full-time course now. And I took them outside so they could count cars. So we went outside to count the colors and the makes of different cars. It was a group project. You know, of course, they played, that's my car, that's my car, that's my car. And then we came back inside and we analyzed the colors of the car, the makes of the car. We talked about if you were a car salesman, which colors would you order? If you were buying a car, if you wanted to be different. I mean, we just looked at it from different angles, and it was probably one of the best lessons that I had at that school and in that environment. So after that, I just started saying, all right, what else can we do? What else can I think of? And I just started doing projects. And then several years later, I learned about project-based learning and pedagogy and all that stuff. And so I naturally gravitated towards it. And then I landed at City Neighbors High School, which is where I am now. And it's a project-based learning school. So that's all we do. So right now, my probability and statistics course is completely arts integrated and project-based.
Wow, superb. Mr. Ross Jones, if I could just follow up for a moment, how do you take the students from being excited about counting cars or something that they like on Monday, and on Wednesday have them do the same formula for a totally different topic that you're trying to research and analyze mathematically? How do you get them to make that transition? Because I think that's what's missing when people.
Breaking up.
Can you hear me, Ms. Ross Jones?
You breaking up for me.
Okay.
I'm breaking up for you.
You might be. Are we okay now with the feed?
Yeah, I feel better now. You feel better?
Okay, I do. Yes.
All right, and I taught the whole thing because I taught middle school, so I can catch things. Don't worry. So I got your question. It was like, okay, so how do we go from that to actually getting them actively engaged in the content, right? And it's easy because first of all, math is my passion. So my undergrad degree is in mathematics. I have a bachelor's of science in mathematics, right? I was a PhD candidate for mathematics, right? Went to College Park in Maryland. It was just like Big Bang Theory. Pocket protectors, fanny packs, everything. I was like, nope, can't do it. Seriously, was not going to be able to make it. So I said, okay. My mission from day one was to go back to the hood per se, or to go back to my people and to raise up people that were proficient in mathematics so that it didn't have to look like that, right? So the way that I get kids engaged is by making it real for them, okay? So literally, like I said, we talked about it from perspectives that they would care about. So say, for example, most of the students in Baltimore, because of the demographics and the way that we live, they care about means. So all they really want to know is, can I make money from this? How do I make money from this? Who is making money from this? Where is the money being made? So anytime I can tie a project to money or to urgency, because this is a place of survival, right? So I do a project called the Water Billing Project, where we looked at water bills, and then we talk about sustainability, and then the urgency of having free and clean water and how it can get you evicted. So I just make the issue relevant to their life. And once the issue is relevant to their life, then it doesn't matter, because once they get interested, because that's what engagement is. So engagement is three parts. So engagement is attraction, right? You want to attract someone's attention. And then involvement, right? Then you get them involved in a conversation or activity or whatever. And the last part of engagement is occupation, occupying their mind. True engagement is when you get in someone's head and whatever you're talking about, discussing, or doing, it stays with them. So the only way to do that is to make it a part of them. So I always think about, because I live in Poplar Grove, so I always think about, I live on the corner of Poplar Grove, and I don't even know, but it's right now, I live right next to a liquor store. So I'm not from here, but I always think about what that means to a student that live next door to me or down the street from me. Like, why would they care? Based on my own experiences in life and based on their experiences in life. So I just try to think about what is the realest, most practical reason why they need the information. And then, like I said, once I have them engaged, a lot of times it goes from there, because once I'm in their mind, then they do start to expand to other thoughts about how this could impact people in other states and in regions. And then they start asking me questions once I'm in their mind, or once the topic is revolving around in their mind. The key is to get in there. But once you get in there, it's no different than any other student anywhere else. It's your approach. So that's it.
Superb. Family, as you remember, we started to assign Miss Reid. You may not know about this, Miss Ross Jones, but we hold up nuggets. We dropping nuggets of wisdom. So Miss Ross Jones, you just drop nuggets out there. Miss Reid, you just drop nuggets, because I don't think a lot of people understand the importance of what it is, the approach, as you said, Miss Ross Jones, to our young people. And that while they are incapable of sitting down and learning in a traditional setting, that might not always work for all of them. You know, there are different ways to reach different students. And as you said, Ms. Ross Jones, what's true for students in Baltimore City can certainly be true of students all over. They need to be engaged. What did you say? You said engaged. What was the second thing?
I said it's 3 parts to engagement.
Right.
So attraction, what attracts to you. And there's a whole, and that goes beyond. So that's the whole thing about culture too, and how you carry yourself. Then there's involvement. Are they able to participate in learning, or is it just you constantly feeding them information? If they're not involved, why should they care? And then the last part is occupation. How does it stay with them even when you're gone? So attraction, involvement, and occupation.
Thank you. Nuggets of wisdom. Brother Tyrone, going to the family hotline. What do we have? What are people saying or asking?
So first of all, welcome everyone who's here. Thank you, Ms. Jones, for being here, Ms. Reid. Great to put a face with you, Ms. Reid. Ms. Reid is always on and participating. Ms. Jones, the side street you were thinking about is Winchester. So I am from Baltimore, grew up on Poplar Grove. My mom actually lived in that exact block where you are, just further up. She's closer to the corner store at the corner opposite of the liquor store. But anyway, welcome, Joanne. Here, shout out a couple of people: Mabel, Daryl, Nataki, Yaji, Alexis, Wendy, Kiki Harper, Tanya Hickson. Thank you all for being here. And there's so many others. Harrison, Katria, a lot of folks are saying great job. Ashley Nicole, thank you for joining us. The part of the attention has been on Mr. William and cutting his hair. It is surprising and shocking to a lot of folks. So we have folks saying, oh, Mr. William cut his hair. And someone else followed up with, yeah, I was going to say the same thing, and all this stuff. And, oh, he looks nice, but we're not going to blow Mr. Williams' head up anymore about the haircut. We're going to go on. Kentria, the engagement question and answer was excellent. So let's see. It was another comment that someone else made here. People were definitely in somewhere else. Okay. Thank you for sharing this. I think project-based learning is needed in other places. And so I know, Ms. Ross, that you also have kind of like a formula for what constitute project-based learning. And someone actually just asked, what is it? How could you, explain to a teacher to think this way, or give lessons? So I think if you could, explain your formula, talk about your formula and tell it that would help.
So basically, like when I look at the content that they have to learn, like I said, I think about what is the most practical and real way that students would have to apply this to their life, right? It takes a little bit of thought, but again, I'm a content teacher, I'm a math teacher, so I'm supposed to be the one that knows how this is important to their life, right? So sometimes it takes a little bit of thought. And so once I do that, in terms of, then I come up with a project around that thing. So like right now, my whole course is around the question, did slavery end or did it evolve? So we start off with measures of central tendency, looking at survival rates of enslaved persons on ships. And then we end with a museum that exemplifies everything from, this year we get to study the Black butterfly in Baltimore. This will be my first year doing that part. So I'm excited about that. But I just try to make it really practical for them. And then in terms of project-based lessons or activities, we have this is not my original thing. This is regular pedagogy for project-based learning. It's the fifths rule. So 1/5 is the introduction. 3/5 is them actually working and learning on their own, not necessarily without my assistance, but without me talking at them having a project. And then the last 1/5, we come back together to share and debrief. So then I just started doing it from there. Like I said, I think about that first, I'm trying to attract their attention, in that first 1/5 of the lesson, what am I going to do to get them interested in the topic, to make them feel like it belongs to them and it means something to them? Then the next 3/5, how am I going to keep them involved in the lesson for 3/5 of the time? What are they going to do that's going to make them want to work for 3/5 of the lesson? And then that occupation, when it's all said and done, how am I going to make this lesson resonate in a way that it occupies their mind for the next day and the next lesson keeps them going? And that's a lot of lofty ideas, but I mean, for practical sake, I would just say, when you look at your content, and if you're a passionate educator, and I know we're all passionate educators, that's why we're here on our time off, trying to learn strategies and stuff. What is it about your content that excites you, makes you passionate, makes you think, how does it apply to the real world? And then how can you scale that down to fit onto your students' level and into their world? You can figure that out, it's easy. But then if you have practical questions, like I love talking about math, but somebody want to throw something in the chat and give me a challenge, I've seen people do plays around like properties of numbers and families, which is really good, particularly for African-American students. I work primarily with African-American students because we understand family, right? So we understand how communities relate. So to then take numeric families and then to apply those principles to how people relate to one another, it's an easy connection for them. It's an easy connection for them. So stuff like that.
Okay, awesome sauce. Thank you for and I'm loving this. This just made me smile because this means that it resonates with our folks. So this question start off with thank you for nuggets. Okay, so the nuggets are setting in. Thank you for nuggets. And how can we win our school's leadership to project-based learning? How does it work with our current testing culture?
Ms. Reid?
Okay, how can you win over administration? Well, school is about the kids, so project-based learning is all about the kids and what they're interested in. And we should truly follow the lead of the children. Like Maria Montessori says, follow the child. And if you're following the children and what they're interested in and what they're learning, as they ask those questions and they're curious about different things, and a lot of projects come out of that. I teach little kids, so little kids talk all the time. They're always asking things, and I always have a child-led. My class is led by my students, my children. They tell me what to do pretty much. It's like they have questions, they have discussions, and I'm just sitting back. I'm a participant because they take the show, and when they are curious and they ask questions, then other things evolve, and that's where that project evolved that I talked about earlier. I mean, we were talking about littering. And from that, they were like, oh, but it's always trash on the playground. How can we make that better? We need to, make it nicer. How can we get other people to help? So that came out of something that was real to them, like Ms. Ross Jones was talking about. You have to relate to them. Their playground was messy, so they wanted to fix it. And then when they were home for, with the COVID or whatever, they were like, okay, our streets have trash. We can make that better. So that also related to them and made them push that activity outside. So going back to the original question, to get admin into it, talk to them about truly following what the children are interested in, because they're interested in it, then they will do it. They will be fully invested in it. And for the testing culture, as William was saying, the lessons, just like my lesson on cleaning up and recycling and all that stuff, it ties into other subjects. So you don't have to just sit there with a book and read from a book or read from one thing. I mean, the children, they can guide the learning with the questions that they ask, and you can get those different, subject areas in, and as they respond, as they write, as they reflect, and they create the projects, they'll be able to keep up with, the testing and the content on the testing. Because if your projects are connected to what you're teaching, you got it. It's there.
Got you.
I was going to ask that follow-up, Tyrone. I'm sorry. I was just going to say that, Ms. Reid. Do you think that administration needs to see a direct correlation between project-based learning and test scores in order for them to really invest in that type of pedagogy, like Ms. Ross Jones said, or curriculum?
A lot of times admin, they're following the numbers. So, maybe that may be something to look into. We have project-based learning schools around the city, so maybe they can look into that. My school is a project-based learning school as well. We are place-based place-based and project-based at our school.
Okay.
I want to say this too. I think Ms. Reid is being modest because we all know each other. And she's leaving out the fact that she's a beast. So one of the ways you get admin in on project-based learning is with results. I mean, this is not just ideals and fluffy ideas. This is how I teach my content. So best believe the students are still getting content. They're just getting it in a different way. And I know because she teaches little kids, God bless her soul, that's not my ministry. The Lord did not give me that anointing to deal with all those little bodies. I have one in my house. I could not do 20 of them, no. So, but she gets them on and she gets them learning even during a pandemic. So that's how you get admin buy-in is by bringing results. So you can't be so project-based learning and so ideal that you forget that, yes, you do have to bring that content and you do have to have, formative assessments and things in place so that you can demonstrate what your children have learned. So anytime someone questions me about my pedagogy, I'm always prepared to show them my student growth and progress. You can't leave that part out. And I think, she does that naturally, and I do it consciously. So that's a big part of it too.
Got you. Well, thank you. I want to remind folks to I am coming with another question before I give it back to you, Brother William, in a comment, but just remind folks to please continue to share the live, comment, ask questions, tap the screen, show your love, and definitely share the live. We just actually had a comment from someone that said this is a great topic. Thank you. Please make sure to share far and wide. People need to see Black mathematicians discuss math education. So thank you for that, Kentria, who also hails from, I want to get this right, let me look back. Kentria hails from Okinawa, Japan. So thank you. We are reaching far and wide with folks. But the question for you both, y'all, remember to send in questions. Hello, April Whitehead. Y'all sending y'all questions, your comments. You both are teachers at charter schools. Do you think educators in traditional schools can teach this way?
Okay, I guess I can go first. Sure. I mean, I came from 2 traditional public schools, and I did some of the same things. I had to kind of navigate the curriculum a little differently. But yes, you can do the same things in traditional schools. If you have a social studies project or a social studies topic or a science topic or a math topic, any topic at all, you can throw in those projects. When the kids come up with the questions and they want to know different things, let them dig into it. Let them dig into the content. Let them dig into, think about the questions that their peers are asking. Think about their experiences and how they can bring it into the learning. It's all about the children and following them. I mean, they run the show. As facilitators of learning, we should take the back seat. They should be to the front.
Yeah, and my most practical tip traditional schools. Remember, I started off at Lamel, so I will give you my journey in Baltimore City schools. I taught at Lamel until it closed, unfortunately, under tragic circumstances. I taught at Garrison. I taught at James McHenry. I've been in traditional schools. I've also been in charter schools. I taught in Mavs and Lily Mae Carroll before I chose to come to City Neighbors, which I will never leave psych. But anyway, so my most practical tip for people that are in traditional schools is within every curriculum, there's always an extension activity or some type of real world scenario that they use to enhance their curriculum. And so instead of making it a curriculum enhance it, make it the focus. So take that enhancement activity and then like differentiate it so that that can actually become the core of what you're teaching. And then you use the rest of the curriculum to supplement and to help students get the practical skills. So that's how you can work within a traditional curriculum and still do project-based learning. I've never seen a curriculum that didn't have extension activities or didn't have real world problems in it. So you just take that real world problem or that extension and make it a project. And that way you're still in the curriculum, but you are, again, using the same principles and pedagogy and practices that we discussed today.
Awesome. Y'all keep Shan alive. Back to you, Brother William.
All right. Thank you, family. Thank you for the compliments. Very kind of you all. So let me ask you, now that you're not, Ms. Ross Jones and Ms. Reid, you're not able to take them outside, at least not from the classroom. How does project-based learning look like in this virtual era? Ms. Reid, we'll start with you.
It will look pretty similar. As I mentioned before, when the questions come up, the discussions happen, the children can go out in their areas, in their travels, and they can make it work. They can collect their information, they can relate it to their lives or what's happening with them. My children, they talk all day long. My students, they have lots of questions about different things. So they're gonna figure it out. It's about them and what they want to learn. And I'll just be there to, facilitate the process.
Thank you. Ms. Ross Jones?
So I'll give y'all the practical example. The most practical example was today. In all transparency, before I got on here with my lip gloss and was feeling all good, I had an awful day. And I'm talking about in tears day. So I logged on. Remember, I got the 1/5, 3/5, 1/5 scenario. So I logged in for the 1/5. By the time I got to my third period class, which is not third period, it's fifth period because of the way we set up. But anyway, I'm already in tears. Like the mic is off, the video is off, I'm sniffling, I'm trying to take the attendance. And the kid's like, "You okay, Ms. Ross Jones?" And I'm like, "No." And honestly, I lost somebody last Thursday, and that was just the beginning of a series of days that were just difficult, challenging. So I'm like, "You guys, this is what I wanted to do today. I wanted to go to the second tab of your projects and I wanted to explain it and this and that." I said, "But really, we could just go in the breakout rooms if you want to, because that's what we do. When they get to working on their projects, they work in groups, and so they're in breakout rooms." And with the beauty of my students, they were so concerned. They were like, "I don't think you should be here. Everything is okay. Why you?" Not everything is okay, but we're okay. We really just want to support you because that's the kind of rapport we've built. Because it's not regular teacher-student relationship. It's more like colleagues and I'm their leader. So I said, well, let me just get through the instruction so you know the basics and then we'll break you out. And that's what I did. I just went through the basic bare bones instructions of what they need to do for the day to add on to what we were already doing. They got into breakout rooms. They've been working on this project for a while. They knew what they had to do. They had their own goals and all that stuff. We came back and I was like, okay, I was checking on them because in Zoom, you have breakout rooms. As you know, you can go into those rooms and just check on people. I did that. We came back and I said, well, did anybody learn anything interesting today? And so we talked about survival rates because that's where we are, measures of central tendency, why they chose the survival rate that they chose. And they had good, insightful things to say about, according to their calculations. Now, mind you, this is data sampling, so it's not official statistics, but these are the ones that they had. For the most part, they came up with survival rates that were less than 1/2, 42%, 49%, stuff like that. So we talked about what that meant for people who were enslaved and a part of the transatlantic slave trade. And it really gave me life, right? Because in times of tragedy, like, I'm not the type of person that just want to sit around and cry, right? So I really wasn't trying to sit around and just cry. So talking to them, listening to their insight, listening to their work, it encouraged me, it made me as a teacher want to work harder, right? So that is like the biggest testimony to project-based learning for me. And basically we just do the same things, it just looks a little different. So we come in, I give them assignments on sheets and words and stuff that they can share. So I share it with the leader. We have a leader, a reader, a sage, and a scribe. The leader leads the group, the reader reads the directions, make sure everything is clear. The sage is the wise person, they do all the calculations, make sure everything looks good, and the scribe is the writer. So they have those 4 roles. I share stuff with the leaders share stuff with their groups. We go into breakout rooms. I try to rotate between the rooms and touch base and make sure they know what they have to do. Then we all come back to the main session. Oh, I also take a break. That's really important. So we always take a break like 30, 35 minutes into the lesson. Like ain't nobody teaching because we have 90-minute lessons. So we ain't going the whole 90 minutes. We take a break, have a snack, chit chat, whatever, like coworkers. Come back, they get in the breakout rooms, do whatever. Then we come back at the end and we talk about next steps and what we want to do. And the beauty of virtual learning, which I love, is that if we're done, they can just leave. Like in a regular school setting, if class is over kind of early, you have this awkward pause because you don't want to let them run in the hallway, but you're really done for the rest of the day. Now it's just like, listen, we done, y'all. Y'all did a great job. We can log off. We don't got to just sit here. And so it makes the work really real and relevant because they know that they're coming to do a job. They're coming to learn something. And once goals are accomplished, we out. We're done. And I have no problem with that because, again, I can see their progress and I can see their learning. So that's what it looks like. We just try to do everything that we normally do in a virtual setting. And there's all type of software that can help you with like surveys and writing on PDFs and all that kind of stuff. But I basically try to do the same thing.
Wow. Brother Tyrone, I was going to come back to you, but Ms. Ross Jones, that was superb. The different type of roles that you have the students to become a part of. And I mean, that's deep. I don't know how that sounds to some people, but I know exactly why you're doing that. And those roles speak directly to students that you identify to be able to carry out those tasks while not leaving any student behind. That's nuggets. Tyrone, that's nuggets. We throw the nuggets at the screen. That's nuggets. Tyrone, did you have anything?
It definitely is, and the people are feeling it. Like folks are responding, and you're getting the yeses and the greats. People are commenting that this is this is the kind of learning that needs to take place in all schools. You got people in here commenting on how they feel about in public schools or traditional schools that the curriculum seems to be rushed and it's all about passing assessments and tests, or it's painfully slow and all scripted, right? So people are definitely feeling and engaging and going and loving this. So I love the roles, excellent ideas. This is true learning at its finest. You know what I mean? So like this is, people are feeling it, like, and that's what we have a bunch of going on here now. Y'all, I would encourage y'all to ask Miss Jones, ask Miss Ross Jones, Miss Reid, any questions. I love the comments, and I love that y'all are supporting our folks and taking things in. I do know that we have a lot of educators on here. So if you have questions and you want to know, we do still have them for a few more minutes. Ask. We have a lot of DMV educators in here from the group. So y'all please, ask and continue to, thank them.
You said shout out
to the DMV.
Yeah, I mean, they are in here. The group, they are here, and like I say, they are like, they're getting something out of it because they are, clapping and showing love and and all that good stuff. But again, y'all, they are here. We have them for a few more minutes. Ask questions that you can. This information I think can help out a lot of people, parents. Also, any questions that you may have. I'm a parent that believes so. With virtual learning, I take the end of the week on Friday, every Friday. Me and my girls, such a single parent, we do some sort of project-based learning with us. I am like, once I learned about it and got into that, like I was huge on it. One, because it was something that I could teach. And it wasn't just like the little little sad curriculum. And I watch my kids. At first it was kind of like, Dad, like we're doing enough during the week, but now they're looking forward to it because it's something that we plan together, right? Like it's something that they like. It's something that really like, get them going from working on financials. So they're loving the banking stuff now because I actually have to give them money to manage and work through. So like they're loving that piece and the cooking piece and like all those things like that. So y'all definitely ask, okay, any project-based tips for parents of first graders? I do a parent-led small group of 3 children who are all in finish Zoom math early. Any tips?
Miss Reid, you have any tips? And then Tyrone, I gave you nuggets. You didn't see me because you were, talking to the people, but nuggets for everything that you're doing as a father, man, incorporating banking, financial literacy, and the culinary arts. Nuggets. Miss Reid?
I would say ask the children what they're interested in and see what they're learning about in their content areas and let the questions come. And as the questions come, so will the project. Because whatever they're interested in, they'll turn it into something. They always do. That's why I like little people. They run the show. They know what they want to learn about. They ask the questions and you can just facilitate them and helping them get together their product, but it should be all them. If it's all them, they'll be fully invested in it.
Yep.
It's like that's how we ended up with the bird house. And I'm like, a bird house? Where'd that come from? With littering and cleaning up the playground. And then all of a sudden, they looked at that and they were like, we can make a birdhouse. So, follow the kids, watch what they're doing, listen to what they talk about, listen to the questions that they have. And then from questions that they have, you can come over top of that with an even bigger question to make them think. And then that will help their project evolve, but it'll be them and what they're doing, what they want to do. Let
me sneak in here. That is, Ms. Reid, that is an invaluable way of teaching those young people. I mean, that's what I keep hearing you say. It's inquiry in the pedagogical sense. They would say, oh, it's inquiry-based learning. That's exactly what you're doing. You're having those young people drive their learning by asking those questions. And that dovetails to what I was going to ask you, Ms. Ross Jones. You're teaching the high school population. Do you find that they are afraid to ask questions? I know that when I was in the classroom, a lot of our kids are afraid to ask the question.
Absolutely. They're definitely, because they have 12 years of being shot down. They have 12 years of being embarrassed. That's another reason why I love group projects, because they might not ask me a question, but they'll ask each other a question. So they're not going to ask me. They're not going to tell me what they don't understand. I do it every day. I say, y'all understand? Crickets. Y'all know what I'm saying? Crickets. All day long, crickets. That's just, I'm not unlike any other teacher. When we in the main session and I'm explaining things, I say, that makes sense to y'all? Crickets. I say, y'all follow me? Crickets. The best thing I can do is get the chat popping. Put a question in the chat, they might respond like that. They don't want to talk to me, but they will talk to each other. And even further, they don't want to fail, and not just fail like the grade, but when you give a project, you're putting a task in front of them. They don't want to not be able to meet that task. So that's why I like it. I talk for 15, honestly, it's 18 minutes. My introduction is 18 minutes. That's 1/5 of my class. And then I just release them, because even if they didn't have questions, once they get that task, then they got questions. And because they got that task in front of them, their ego is aside, because now it's like, look, I gotta get this done. So now I really need your help. Like, this is not a worksheet. This is not a little essay. This ain't no simple question. And I think it makes it acceptable and okay to have questions, because from day one, I'm making known that what we're about to do is difficult. Right? It's supposed to be difficult. So there's no shame. And also what we're doing is real world. It's practical. And a lot of times there's no right answer to some of my questions. My question could be like today, the central theme for this lesson was choosing the best measure of central tendency. There's some clearly wrong answers and there's some clearly right answers, but there's choice in this. What did you choose and why did you choose it? And how does that apply to your data? And what do you want to say to it? So that also makes it easier to ask questions because even though everybody knows that I'm Miss Ross Jones, and whenever I'm speaking Beyonce on stage, that's how I run my class. Beyonce on stage, and Destiny Child is dead. Ain't no background to my foreground. I always tell them that. But they also know that I'm a human being. They also know that I make mistakes. I make mistakes in front of them. They also know that sometimes they will ask me, how is this or what is this to be? And I would say, I don't know because this is your project. And that's the truth. Like, I don't know. This is your data. You collected it. I can look at it with you and I can consult with you. But truth be told, I'm not the woman of all answers of all things. We're in this together. So that makes it easier too. Because a lot of times they'll say to me, like, well, what's the answer? I'm like, I don't know. We ain't got that far yet. We're trying to find the answer. And it takes away that, textbook right and wrong, which turns a lot of people off in math because if they can't get it right, it's so discouraging. Whereas if we're in this together, and that's how real life is. Real life mathematicians don't know the answers to the questions that they have. They're seeking them, they're searching them, they're researching them. That's what I love about mathematics. It's another means of communicating. We talked about that today. Math is a language. So I'm less concerned with them having it right and wrong and more concerned with them being able to communicate. But yes, it's an uphill battle, particularly when they first get to know me because they don't know me. So they don't ask me no questions. They just want to, come to a regular little class and sit down and do some worksheets. And I'm just like, psh, 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 let's do this. So that part takes time in building up culture. That takes a little time.
Nuggets on nuggets there. Thank you. Brother Tyrone, do you have any more?
I'm not making this up, y'all. I don't like y'all that much. I like y'all, but loving it. No, it's more. We just got thank you both ladies for what you do. I totally love the way you guys are teaching. Keep up the great work, you ladies rock. Go Miss Ross. Woohoo. Like this is what's coming through and people are feeling it. So again, like it's a nugget show. So it's a show where folks are like taking in the nuggets, and I believe and hope that they'll apply it to what they do. Again, as I said, as a parent who's home, like you can apply it. I know the first grader, Ms. Reid, definitely shared what she thought, and I'm not teaching first graders, but I agree totally. I look at the regular things that they do, where their interests are, and like base your stuff off of that, and that will keep them babies going. Even with your group. Again, I'm teaching. Miss Ross, I might knock on your door because I know where you live at. Because for I do, like, my daughter's in the 9th grade, right? And like she loves math, and I don't necessarily agree with the way the teacher is teaching, and I can be a bit of a something
downward facing dog.
Yes, I can be something else, but no, I don't like it. But thinking just to get other ways to work with her right around math and stuff like that would be helpful. Okay, let me see. But I'm all right. Get off of you, Tyrone. This is not about you. Let's go back to the people. Exactly. Asking questions is a no-no sometimes. Being told for 12 years, no, wait, that's not what we are talking about right now. That comes from another teacher. And, absolutely. My first grader always want to cook. And so, yeah, absolutely. So teaching them certain, look, Ms. Reid is like, yeah, so, teaching them measurements, what I'm saying? Like looking at that stuff right there, like it's not too early. So understanding measurements and all those kind of things now, like you're teaching them, again, through cooking and so many other ways, cleaning, everything. Like I have tried to take those little things. The cleaning didn't work as much because of chores with mines, but I really think that with little babies, right, like younger, if you start them off with cleaning and kind of like lining that up with learning and chemicals and all these things of not mixing and stuff like that, like they will take on it and run. My girls are just like whatever. I did that myself, but yeah, it's just so many ways. I'm telling you, like I absolutely love it. I think I would love for parents. I'm so glad that we did do this show, and I'm so glad that it's well attended and it's out there. And again, y'all, please share this because someone asked earlier, how do we get admin to buy into it and stuff like that? Like we have to show them that it actually works. Like we have to show them and hear from people and know that it worked. So y'all try it, do it, teach it. Like I can guarantee you that kids thinking about me as a kid, if I was in school, I know I will be so much more engaged. I've heard my daughter say, why do I have to learn this? Where will this help me out in life? Right? Like talking about things that they're learning now with the curriculum that's provided for them versus project-based learning, right? And like it's all about life. It's all about what you will, come in contact with every day in every aspect of working. And I love the idea. I love how the birdhouse came out of it. Like I could see that with kids finding out we may not think our mind won't even be there, but they will think of a solution in a way to come up with a project around something that we're doing that will just blow our mind. So y'all continue to share the live, y'all. I want to turn it over. We're almost at the end. I would encourage y'all to get in any other questions that y'all have for our esteemed guests and our nugget droppers before they go. And continue keep showing mad love. That's what they're doing. Like they are enjoying you all. So at some point you're gonna have to come back.
Let me say this though, also too. That question, when will I ever use this in life? That is the most prevalent question we have in mathematics and education, period. And I would say the most practical thing you can do, and I have done this before, is just straight up Google it. When do people use linear algebra in real life? Bam. There's all kinds of geeks all over this world. There's all kinds of TED Talks. We have YouTube. We have so much through the power of technology where you can go find a practical example of when somebody uses this in life.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know, Google it. that's my first thing. If you don't know, Google it and look up some stuff and see if you know. And then, like you said, if you understand the concept, then you can apply it to other things. You know, like I said, I love math. I eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I always like to talk about it. But I understand everybody's not feeling that, right? Everybody don't wake up in the morning like, oh, I can't wait to look at these quadratic equations. They're so amazing. so you gotta like find out though, the people that are there, what are they using it for? Right? And it's not just for science, it's not just for aerospace. Like I try to explain to people, it's particularly now with politics being the way that it is, economics being the way that it is, decisions are being made off of mathematics. So find a topic that you like, and I guarantee you with some maths behind it somewhere. I go to school with a lot of great activist-minded students. They're really into social justice. And I try to explain to them, and please, I mean no disrespect, but marching ain't gonna cut it. You can't just be marching. You gotta have the agenda. You gotta have content. You have to have facts behind the things that you're saying. And data is what's gonna push your agenda. Yep. If you don't understand how data works, it's harder to push your agenda. You know, we passed the point of marching, not to saying that you shouldn't march. But what I'm saying is you got to be very organized and strategic in your thinking. And even in your presentation, particularly when people challenge your agenda, you got to be able to give them the facts. And most of the time, the facts are going to run around statistics. They're going to run around.
Yes, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I do have a question that come up. And another piece of that is, you have to follow the money.
Yes.
Right? You have to follow the money. You have to know how money is being spent, where it's going, where it's coming from, and all that stuff in order to do that. Like I'm big on it. I tell my kids that right now we're learning local government because that's not taught in schools either. So we're learning local government, and I'm teaching them about the city budget. You know what I mean? Like it's anyway. I like y'all. I can talk with y'all all day long because I can also learn stuff. But I do want to ask this question: is it? This seems especially important to advocate for during virtual learning. What can you say to parents who want to advocate for project-based learning, or how can we push the district to support project-based learning?
Ms. Reid?
Well, I mean, make sure that you're active in your PTO, PTA. Go to those meetings. If you're in a charter school, go to the board meetings. You know, you have a voice. You know, talk to parents that you know who have the same interest. You guys get together, write some letters, but you need to voice your opinion and how you feel and what you feel, you know, will be best for your kids, because in the end, we are teaching your kids.
Nuggets. Miss Ross Jones, final thought on that.
I would say it's the same thing in charter schools. I mean, teachers know that. Teachers know that parents have power, political power in the school. Parents come to school and complain about something. We could have been complaining about it for years. But, down in Baltimore, we have what's called a hot ticket. A parent called in a hot ticket to North Avenue, and all of a sudden, that thing got to be fixed today. We were talking about this for months. So don't ever think that you don't have power, even in a traditional school. So make your voice known. And because a lot of times as teachers, that's what we need when we're saying this. We're saying these things, and administrators may not always lend their ear. Like I said, I'm at a certain place now because me and Ms. Reid both, we've been teaching a long time. So we're in a position to choose. But when I first started out, it was definitely a traditional school. And most definitely parents have a lot of voice, particularly if they get loud in every sense of the word. So I would say even in traditional schools, even in the poorest of districts, parents have a voice. Make your voice known, make your request known, cry loud and cry often that this is what you want. And people will start to make it happen.
Is there something that made you both leave traditional school and go to charter schools?
I'll let Ms. Reid go first.
Well, for me,
From an educator.
for me, it's the flexibility at charter schools, because at traditional schools, you're in a box and you can't jump outside or reach outside that box, and you can't really do a lot of things. But when you go to a charter school, you can spread your wings a little bit, follow your curriculum maps and guides, but you can do other things. Just like with my school, we have like curriculum guides and things like that, but they're like, well, this is not like the Bible. This is not all of it. You use this as a guide and give the kids what they need, meet the kids where they are. So we're able to do a bit more. And this is year 19 for me. So I'm tired of being in a box. It's time to be out the box. This is year 3 at Creative City. So I'm enjoying being able to spread out a little bit and do what I do best, which is not read a script.
Definitely. I mean, for me, I was a big person against charter schools. I felt like charter schools drained money and resources from communities. And I was a big advocate against charter schools. But at the same time, just being honest, I realized that I couldn't hold up the world on my own banner. So after a while, I started going to charter schools and sent my children to charter schools, quite honestly, to be around like-minded people. So shout out to City Neighbors High School. I've never been in an environment where people were so much on the same page about really, truly educating people. And that's not to downput anybody's traditional school. I'm just saying that in this particular environment where I am, I can say, if nothing else, we might not agree, we might not have the same style, we are coming from all different walks of life, but in my particular school, for the most part, we're all about the business of educating kids. And unfortunately, you don't get that everywhere you go. So that's how I ended up there. I wish I could say that about traditional schools. It just has not panned out that way, unfortunately. And I really do say unfortunately, because like I said, I started out in neighborhood schools. I believe in neighborhood schools. And if I could find a neighborhood school where I could operate in the way that I operate now, I would gladly do it because I believe in community. But I just didn't. It just didn't work out that way.
Well, go ahead, Tyrone.
You all helped an educator out. So this warms my heart. I love what this platform is doing for parents. I know parents are being reached. I'm loving to see more educators are being reached and touched. And we just had one that shared. Thank you both. I really needed this. I know what I need to do. So apparently you have helped someone make a decision, and that is great. Thank you, April, for always being there, but thank you for sharing that. I love seeing stuff like this because, again, this is why we put this platform in place. This is what we wanted. We wanted to reach parents and teachers and, educate and help throughout things, and we're doing it. So I'm satisfied.
And you know what, Tyrone, we're going to end, but Tyrone, Miss Reid actually gave us our organizer nugget. We didn't even have to drop. We have a new segment we're trying out, Miss Reid and Miss Ross Jones. And Miss Ross Jones, you gave us some earlier, but Miss Reid, parents, you're hearing it straight from the mouth of two brilliant educators. You have a voice.
Yep.
And just like Tyrone just said last week, talk to other parents if you have similar concerns. That's your first step. And that's what Ms. Reid said. then get on those boards and PTA and PTO and let your voice be heard. Ms. Ross Jones just talked about heat tickets. Send it up the chain, email. So there's a lot that you all can do, we can do. We are running out of time. We're going to have Ms. Reid and Ms. Ross Jones over Thursday at Tyrone's house. And as you know, family, that is an invite for you to join us as well. 5 o'clock, where Tyrone does the talking and I'm just sitting, and that's good. And it's a good thing. But we want to thank our esteemed producer, Ms. Rebecca, for putting these wonderful guests in your presence, family at home. You would not be hearing from them otherwise. So thank her. Ms. Ross Jones, thank you. Ms. Reid, of course. Tyrone, the face of the franchise. Anything else before we sign off, brother? We overdue.
No, y'all, school board meeting is tomorrow. So watch, pay attention, share. We are preparing our video testimonial. So if we mentioned it last week, it's like last minute, but if you do have something that you want to share around reopening and the safety of it, why it's still not safe, you can send the video in as quick as possible to us. Oh, okay. Sorry, I just got a little note. Y'all see it. But yeah, that's it. And like William said, always Thursday we here. And next Friday, please bring them back. Hello, Soror, speak your truth. The people are like lighting up with comments to you all again. So we will bring them back. Of course, we love this. Thank you.
I don't think we have a choice. All right, family. Love y'all. See y'all on Thursday, Tyrone's house.